People love to call the Canada-US border, the world's longest undefended border, a symbol of perfect friendship. For over 8,800 kilometers, this invisible line has separated two nations that share more than just geography. It's a border marked by trust, open roads, and a history of cooperation that's the envy of the world. Generations have crossed back and forth for work, family, and adventure, rarely giving a second thought to the invisible line beneath their feet. But even the best neighbors have their blow-ups, and when those neighbors are two economic giants, things get messy. Billions of dollars in trade cross this border every day, and with so much at stake, even small disagreements can quickly spiral into major disputes. Behind the scenes, negotiations can get tense, and sometimes old grievances resurface in unexpected ways. In 2025, a trade dispute turned the Alaska Highway, a lifeline to America's northernmost state, into a geopolitical flashpoint. What was once a symbol of wartime cooperation, built during World War II to connect Alaska to the rest of the continent, suddenly became the center of a high-stakes standoff. The highway stretching through the wilds of British Columbia was now at the heart of an international argument. Suddenly, the handshake across the border became a standoff, and the world watched to see who'd blink first. News outlets buzzed with speculation, and both governments scrambled to reassure their citizens. The friendly rivalry between Canada and the U.S. was about to be tested like never before. The battleground, British Columbia, the only land route to Alaska. This province, known for its breathtaking scenery and rugged terrain, suddenly found itself in the global spotlight. Every truck, every car, every shipment now carried the weight of international politics. For decades, Americans drove through BC to reach Alaska, a symbol of cooperation. Summer road trips, cross-border tourism, and the easy flow of goods all depended on this vital artery. It was a living example of how two countries could work together, even in the most remote corners of the continent. But in 2025, that road became a pressure point. Suddenly, what was once a routine drive turned into a tense journey, with delays, inspections, and uncertainty at every turn. The world's longest undefended border was now the site of a very real confrontation. Canada realized the highway could be a powerful bargaining chip in a fight neither side wanted to lose. With every mile of road, the stakes grew higher, and both countries weighed their next moves carefully. The world watched as diplomacy and strategy played out in real time. It all started with a decision in Washington, D.C., and Canada was done playing the polite neighbor. The gloves were off, and both sides prepared for a showdown that would test the limits of their relationship. Buckle up. This is the story of how a friendly border became a battleground, and how two nations learned that even the closest friendships can be tested when the stakes are high. March 2025. The world is watching as a new chapter in North American trade begins to unfold, and the stakes couldn't be higher. President Trump is back in the Oval Office, and he's wasting no time making waves. With a stroke of his pen, he slaps a sweeping 25% tariff on nearly all Canadian and Mexican goods entering the United States. The message is clear: America first, no matter the cost. Newsrooms buzz with breaking headlines. Economists scramble to predict the fallout. Social media explodes with hot takes and heated arguments. The world's largest trading bloc is suddenly on shaky ground. This isn't Trump's first tariff rodeo, but this time, Canada's response is different. Fierce, not polite. Gone is the measured diplomacy of the past. In its place, outrage, resolve, and a promise to fight back. For Canada, trade with the U.S. isn't just business. It's the backbone of the economy. Every day, billions of dollars in goods cross the world's longest undefended border, fueling jobs and livelihoods on both sides. A 25% tariff isn't just a policy. It's a direct threat to thousands of Canadian businesses, from auto parts manufacturers in Ontario to farmers in the prairies. Suddenly, the future looks uncertain. Prime Minister Trudeau doesn't mince words. He calls the move very dumb, diplomatic language for enough is enough. Behind closed doors, his government scrambles to craft a response that's both tough and strategic. The tariffs are classic Trump, a show of strength, a high-stakes gamble meant to force Canada and Mexico back to the negotiating table. But this time, the playbook might not work. Instead of caving, Canada gets angry. Protests erupt in cities from Vancouver to Montreal. Parliament is gripped by fierce debate. The public mood shifts from shock to defiance. For ordinary Canadians, the insult stings as much as the economic pain. Workers worry about layoffs. Small business owners fear for their future. Families brace for higher prices at the checkout. The announcement is a spark in a warehouse of fireworks, igniting outrage across Canada. The country hasn't felt this united or this angry in years. Provincial leaders and Ottawa put aside their differences, determined to hit back. For once, political rivals stand shoulder to shoulder, ready to defend Canadian interests. The message is unmistakable. If you hurt us, we'll hurt you. Retaliation is on the table, and Canada is ready to use every tool at its disposal. And Canada has a unique weapon, a highway that's Alaska's lifeline. The Alaska Highway running through British Columbia and the Yukon is suddenly a powerful bargaining chip. The stage is set for a showdown. Tensions rise at border crossings. Negotiators dig in for a fight that could reshape the continent's economy. The world's friendliest border is about to get a lot less friendly. Security tightens and uncertainty hangs in the air. And the first shock comes from British Columbia, where leaders are ready to make history and maybe change the game for good. Enter David Eby, Premier of British Columbia. Watching Trump's tariff news, he thinks, "You want hardball? Here's a curveball." The Alaska Highway runs through BC and Eby sees leverage. He announces plans for legislation to slap hefty tolls on U.S. trucks heading to Alaska. The message, "If you tax our goods, we'll tax your access." The tolls aren't law yet, but the threat is real, a warning shot at Washington. The move targets a weak spot, Alaska's supply chain. Tolls would spike costs for Alaskan businesses and families overnight. The Alaska Trucking Association warns of chaos and price hikes. Eby frames it as standing up to a bully, drawing a line in the sand. The highway is now the front line in a new trade war. This isn't just BC going rogue. Canada rallies as one. Trudeau's government launches retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford, usually friendly to Republicans, slaps a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. Yukon's Premier, bans American liquor in government stores, and blocks U.S. companies from contracts. Even the public joins in, suggesting creative protests and bans. BC takes it further, halting alcohol sales from Republican-led states. The message, "This is personal, not just economic." Canada's famously polite neighbour is now shouting back. Every province joins the fight, using every tool to make its point. The border is united and defiant. Alaska, remote, wild, and hard to reach. This vast state, larger than Texas, California, and Montana combined, is defined by its isolation. Rugged mountains, endless forests, and icy rivers make travel a challenge for even the most seasoned adventurers. For most people, Alaska conjures images of untouched wilderness and dramatic landscapes, but for those who live here, the reality is far more complex. Most goods arrive by sea, but the Alaska Highway is the state's express lane for urgent supplies. Stretching over 1,300 miles from Dawson Creek in British Columbia to Delta Junction, Alaska, this road is a lifeline for communities scattered across the north. When ships are delayed or weather closes the ports, the highway becomes the only reliable route for critical deliveries. Fresh food, critical oil equipment, and time-sensitive cargo all rely on that road. Every week, convoys of trucks brave treacherous conditions to keep Alaska's shelves stocked and its industries running. Without these deliveries, daily life would grind to a halt. Without it, a fresh salad in Fairbanks or a vital part for the oil fields becomes a logistical nightmare. Imagine waiting weeks for basic groceries, or seeing entire industries pause because a single shipment is stuck at the border. The highway is Alaska's insurance policy against costly shutdowns. It's not just a road, it's a guarantee that life in the last frontier can continue no matter what. Canada's toll threat targets this critical artery. If new fees or restrictions are imposed, the consequences could ripple far beyond the border, affecting every Alaskan household and business. Governor Mike Dunleavy of Alaska urges calm, knowing the stakes. He's working with federal officials and Canadian counterparts, determined to keep the highway open and affordable for all who depend on it. He warns that closing or tolling the highway would hit Alaska where it hurts most. Truckers, logistics workers, and families across the state are watching anxiously, aware that their livelihoods hang in the balance. The road may not carry the most volume, but it carries the most vital goods. Medical supplies, emergency equipment, and food for remote villages all depend on this fragile link. Disrupting it would send shockwaves through Alaska's economy. Businesses could shutter, prices could soar, and communities could be left isolated for weeks at a time. The pressure is on, and the pain would be immediate. Every Alaskan is feeling the tension, from city centers to the most remote outposts. The highway is now a symbol of vulnerability, a reminder that even in the modern world, Alaska's connection to the outside is as fragile as ever. Canada adds a new twist: regulations. BC and Yukon tighten rules on the Alaska Highway, citing environmental protection and public safety. New inspections, stricter oversight, and blocked secondary routes slow U.S. traffic. Officially, it's about protecting wilderness and indigenous rights. Unofficially, it's a clever squeeze, bureaucratic pressure without open war. For American truckers and tourists, the reason doesn't matter. Delays and costs pile up. These rules are hard for the U.S. to challenge. Canada is fighting with paperwork, and it's working. Trump doesn't take this quietly. He blasts Canada on social media, accusing Trudeau of cutting off Alaska. The phrase is political dynamite, turning a trade spat into a national security crisis. Conservative media runs with it, fueling outrage. The debate shifts. It's no longer about tariffs, but about defending American territory. Trump's simple narrative makes Canada the villain. The rhetoric escalates, making compromise harder. Leaders on both sides dig in, and the standoff intensifies. The war of words is as fierce as the economic one. The border is now a battleground in the public imagination. Beyond the headlines, real people feel the fallout. In Alaska, businesses and families panic over rising costs and supply fears. Truckers warn of price hikes. Families worry about groceries and essentials. Canadians, meanwhile, feel a surge of national pride, finally standing up to the U.S. Memes and jokes fly. But not everyone is cheering. Business leaders fear a trade war will hurt both sides. Border towns worry about lost goodwill and economic pain. The dispute is no longer abstract. It's hitting wallets and communities. Both governments face pressure. Trump to act tough, Trudeau to find peace. Ordinary people are caught in the crossfire. The friendship is fraying, and everyone feels it. July 6, 2025. The border is tense, the highway a symbol of crisis. Will threats remain threats, or will a deal be struck? Maybe both sides find an off-ramp. Tariffs eased, tolls shelved, and peace restored. Or maybe the conflict escalates, with tit-for-tat retaliation and lasting damage. The future of the Canada-US relationship hangs in the balance. Can leaders de-escalate, or is the rhetoric too hot? The world is watching. Is this a detour or a dead end? For Alaska and Canada, the hope is simple. Build bridges, not toll booths.